The actress who has been called Hollywood's most fashionable chameleon, she's clearly the actor of the moment. I am pleased to have Jessica Chastain back at this table.
Thank you so much.
Let's talk about Kathryn Bigelow.
Yeah.
What was the call from her, and what did they say?
That was a really exciting thing. I was shooting Mama in Toronto, and I got a text from Megan Ellison from Annapurna Pictures. They said, if I ever ask you for anything, it's to call me right now for 5 minutes. It was very dramatic.
Yes.
And deserved a call back.
Yes.
So I called her, and she said there's a Kathryn Bigelow movie she's making. The part's amazing. It reminded her of Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs. They've been told I'm unavailable because of my schedule, but she will not take no for an answer. So
Kathryn Bigelow or?
Megan. Megan said that. And I said, okay, look, I'm a huge fan of Kathryn Bigelow's. She's a great hero of mine. Of course I'm interested. Let me know if you can make the schedules work. And then within the week, I got cold called from Kathryn Bigelow. It was super exciting. I was coming home from work, and I turned my cell phone on, and I had a message from Kathryn asking me to call her back. I'd never met her before. Kind of freaked out in the car, and then had to compose myself and call her back and said, hello, Kathryn. It's very nice to talk to you. Of course, I'd love to read your script. And I read the script, and, I mean, I knew page 2 that it was something I had to do.
What was it about Maya that made you know you had to do it?
Well, first of all, I was really shocked that there was a woman at the center of
the search for Bin Laden.
Yeah, it's the greatest manhunt in history, and there's a young woman involved. Yeah. And
part of a team, a very small team of people from the CIA.
Yeah, but she just really made me laugh with her sass and her...
from the text, from the script.
From the text, absolutely. And her strength, and, you know, even when she comes up against brick walls, whether it be interrogations that don't go the way she wants or colleagues that don't believe in her lead, she does not take no for an answer. And I was so inspired by her, and of course, working with Kathryn Bigelow. So immediately I sent Kathryn an email that said, if you want me, I'm there. If we can make the schedule work, I am there.
Yeah. When you look at her, tell me what you thought about her. I mean, you felt this arc that she had gone on.
Well, you know, from the very first scene she's in, there's so many clues in the text about the character. And from the very first scene that I read, she shows up in an interrogation that is not what she expected it to be. You know, she's wearing a nice suit. She's in Islamabad, but she never asked to be stationed there. And in the interrogation, they're using extreme measures, i.e., you know, waterboarding. And the struggle that she has, even within that scene without a lot of dialogue, I found to be actually really compelling to think of playing that, you know, as an actor. And to start from there, to see where, as the journey goes on, she descends the rabbit hole and she becomes a stranger to herself, this life that she knew that was only like a shadow.
She loses herself in her mission.
Yeah, until the very end when the pilot asks her, where do you want to go? There's this moment of not knowing where she can go or even who she is. It's such a big question for Maya at the end.
Who is she?
Exactly. Well, at the end, I don't think she knows who she is, you know, because...
Or where she goes from there.
Exactly. She's lived her whole life with this one goal. What happens, and what means did she use to achieve that goal? And what does that make her now that it's over? And, you know, it's bigger than that at the end. It's Maya, where does she go? But then also, where do we go as a country? Where do we go now? The movie ends with a question, and it's unanswered, which I think is really commendable for Kathryn.
What was the hardest part about filming it? I mean, being in Amman, walking into a place that what they call extreme interrogation was taking place.
Yeah. I mean, everything. We filmed that scene in a active Jordanian prison. So, you know, even going to work wasn't a fun experience. You're going in and you check, you know, you can't have a cell phone, you can't have all these things. It's an open-air prison. Certain times of the day, you're not really allowed to be outside. The way people would look at me because I was fair-skinned with red hair was, you know, strange. It wasn't the most comfortable place. Also, I'm playing a character who... She has been trained to be unemotional and analytically precise, and my whole life I've been trained to be emotional.
Exactly the opposite, yes.
So it's like acting in many cases with a straitjacket on. When I want to react in an emotional way, I have to think, okay, I can have that impulse like Maya would, but now I have to be professional and hide it until those moments where Maya lets the lid off and she goes a little crazy in our film.
It is said that this movie sort of puts the human face on the war against terrorism. I think Kathryn may have said that.
Yeah, I think it definitely shines a light on the many, many workers who worked behind the scene, who we never really hear about. I mean, Maya, it's based on a true story of this woman. She's an undercover agent. And I don't know that we would have learned this story had not Mark Bull and his investigative journalism discovered it.
Did you see her, talk to her?
No. No. It's very dangerous because she is an undercover CIA agent. You never want to do anything that would put her at risk of losing her job or becoming discovered.
The question really leads itself to the notion of whether this is somebody played this role, you know, and they really define her by what she did rather than who she was.
Yes.
You know, whatever the emotion and whatever the intensity, whatever the sense of a character that you know how to inhabit. Or was it simply from the text and they described how she was and you had the lines that reflected in the movie from Mark, who did the research, what she was like?
Well, I had 3 months before we started shooting to basically go to school for this film. And, you know, a lot of that consisted of meeting with Mark many times and asking questions about the CIA, asking questions about Maya, asking questions about, in each scene, everyone's job, who has seniority over her, and that helps me the way I'm speaking to them. I read a lot. I found particularly very helpful was the book The Looming Towers and Michael Schur's book.
Lawrence Wright.
Yeah, on Osama bin Laden. I thought that was a great book, Michael Schur's book. And then I had to use my imagination to answer questions that could not be answered in the research because she is undercover. So things like, who's at home waiting for her?
Yeah.
What's her favorite American candy?
What kind of movies does she like?
Exactly. What's her favorite song? When she feels lonely, what does she think about? All of these things I had to create. I do this for every character I play, even Celia Foote, you know, even a fictional character, and in like a little book. And then Kathryn, being the director she is, then incorporates it into the film. So you'll see, like in Maya's apartment in Pakistan, you see a drawing made by a child. You'll see there's a scene where I'm eating an American candy in a robe after I've gone to the market. And what I found great is Kathryn took me to the set and said, what do you think Maya's apartment should look like? And I got to ask for certain pictures, postcards, child's drawings, candies. And then when we were filming scenes, Kathryn then says, well, why don't we have you in the robe eating the candy? And I think it's so incredible because it's this contradiction of like where she came from and where she is now. And that's all Kathryn.
Kathryn Bigelow said that on discovering that Maya played a central role and was a woman was like a royal flush for her.
Yeah.
She wanted to make the movie, but to find that a woman was at the center of it.
Yeah. I think she would have made the movie no matter what.
Of course she would, but she loved the idea.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, when I read the script, I was so blown away on page 2. You know, even the way we meet Maya, we're introduced to this character, and I thought, wait a minute, there's a woman at the center of this? But then I was actually really upset at myself that I was so shocked that there'd be a woman at the center of this. Why wouldn't there be? Let's
look at this second scene from the film. And what's that scene?
That's him, that's Bradley telling her that she's going to get a one-on-one, which is an interrogation with Abu Faraj. Which is, I mean, if she's, you know, wants to learn about Abu Ahmed, that's a really important thing for her to do because she's hoping by interrogating Faraj she can get some information about Ahmed.
Let me go back to San Francisco.
All right.
Your dad's a fireman.
Yeah.
Your mother is a cook.
Well, yeah, she's a vegan cook. She used to have a restaurant. You know, she's a cook/stay-at-home mom.
And then there's your grandmother.
Yes.
Who, when you were, what, 7, took you to the theater?
She took me to the theater. I think I said this the last time I was here, she must have sensed something in me that needed to be expressed. I didn't quite get along with others very well. I was kind of a loner. I had a very active imagination, but had difficulty expressing my emotions. And she always used to tell me when I was a child, like she always said, why don't you smile? You have a beautiful smile. Now I smile all the time. So she was constantly trying to find outlets for me. She bought me ballet lessons, and she took me to a play when I was 7 years old. And on the way there, she said, you know, this is a professional thing. This is what they do for a living. And then as soon as it started, there was a little girl, I think she was a narrator, on stage, and immediately was just like, that's what I am.
That's what I want to do. That's who I am.
That's what I am. It wasn't about, like, I want to be that when I grow up. It was like, that's what I am. And then my whole life made sense. This thing about...
You know how lucky it is to find that when you're 7? It's
incredibly lucky. But also it's a great test in patience.
Yeah. Now, what's the patience? Because you got to wait to do it?
Yeah, I was the kid, like, you know, as soon as I knew what I wanted to do and I knew it was something that could be done, I was constantly asking my mom, will you take me to L.A. to audition for commercials?
She didn't want to be a stage mother.
No. Which I'm really grateful that she didn't do any of that, because I had a very normal childhood. But it was constantly like, I was like, when am I going to get to do this? And even when I was, you know, in elementary school, I went to public school, wasn't an art school at all. And the kids who did really well in school got to be in the plays. I did very badly in school because I mean, I did great once I was at Juilliard, but in public school system, I never really found my place.
And were you acting at that time? Not
really. The only time I'd be acting is with the school plays, but usually it meant I was in the back because I never got good grades. It wasn't until junior high that there was a drama club, and that's when I started to excel in that.
How did you get to Juilliard?
Wow. I did Romeo and Juliet. It was a professional production, an equity production of it. And
in San Francisco?
In San Francisco. And the guy who was playing Romeo had gotten to Juilliard. And he was going there, and I thought, you know, we were there, and he was very talented, but I thought, wow, maybe if he got in, I could get in. Yeah. And I auditioned, and it was the only school I auditioned for at the time, and I was very lucky.
A rather famous audition, though.
Yes.
What did you do?
I did Juliet's Gallop of Pace, and I did Seascapes with Sharks and Dancer. And my Gallop of Pace was, it was probably unlike any version they'd ever seen before, because when I look at it, I see the words as very sensual. To me, you know, the way she speaks, come, night, come, thou black-browed night, give me my Romeo, and when he shall die, take him and cut him into little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world will be in love with night and pay no worship to the garish sun. I mean, it's so like this building to this, you know, almost climax. And also it's about this girl who's just been married. She's always been a girl. Now she's a woman. She's married, and when the sun goes away, the night will be here, and so will Romeo, and she will be a woman. So for me, it was about a girl's passage to womanhood through sex, you know. And I did the monologue. You know, I was like running around the room, and then at the end, I was like on the floor, and I was calling up to the sky. And I sat up, and I kind of like looked at my teachers, and it was like, you know that scene in Flashdance where they're like sitting there like, what just happened? And Michael Kahn, who used to run the program, kind of looked at me, and he smiled, and he said, did you have fun, Jessica? And I said, yes. And he said, thank you very much. And then that's all that they asked for.
And your thought at that moment was, I'm not going to make it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, oh, that was way too bold. Yeah. But then I got called back, and when I got called back, that's when I started to think, okay. And then when I went to the callback, all they did was ask me questions. They didn't ask me to do any other monologues, which I had been told from my friend who had gone to Juilliard that he'd done 8 monologues in order to get in. And once I went and they interviewed me, that's when I thought, oh, I have a good shot at this, because they're not asking to see anything else.
And then they gave you the Robin Williams Scholarship.
Yeah. Then I got, which made it possible for me to go to school. Robin Williams is an alumni at Juilliard. I've never met him. And he very generously gave me a scholarship.
And so you graduated in 2003. Do you head to New York, or what do you do?
I stayed in New York. I got, right before, 2 weeks before graduation, I got offered a holding deal with John Wells, which was incredible. We were the very first group at Juilliard to have a Los Angeles showcase. And John Levy went to the showcase. He's, you know, works with John Wells. And then I went in and did a scene for John Wells and like 18 people who wrote for West Wing. And then I got a call that they were offering me a holding deal, which was fantastic because I could still live in New York. I could do theater. I did a play with David Strathairn.
Right.
And then I would fly back and forth to appear on the TV shows. And that was the very first time I'd ever been in front of a camera.
What brought you to Al Pacino?
I guess Marta Keller had seen me in the play that I did with David Strathairn, and she told Al Pacino about me because they're great friends.
And they had been together for a while. And
yeah.
I think they appeared in, what was it?
Bobby
Film about
Deerfield.
Bobby Deerfield, about a race car driver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was actually in Australia, and I got a call from my agent that said, Al Pacino has asked for you to audition for a production of Salome. And I hadn't really been familiar with the play, so I said, okay, that's really bizarre. I've never met Al Pacino. And I was just playing like little day players on TV. And I read the play and I thought, are you kidding me? Salome, it's Salome.
Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, and I went and auditioned for Estelle Parsons. You know, many times when I audition, it's for things, I feel like a lot of the times it's someone daring me. Like with this one, my first meeting was with Estelle Parsons before Al Pacino ever showed up. And we sat down, we talked for a bit, and then she said, why should I know you? And I was like, well, I don't know why you should know me, but I went to Juilliard, I did all these things. And I was expecting to read, and then Estelle goes, okay, let me see you dance. I said, what, you want to see me dance? I'm shy.
But you'd studied ballet.
Yeah, I studied ballet, but also the way Salome dances in Salome
exactly.
is a different kind of dancing. And she goes, yeah, I just want to see the way you move. And I kind of had this moment, I looked at her, and I was so embarrassed. But I knew she was like, let's show me what you got. You know, let's see if you've got the guts to play this part. So I just stood up.
Let it go.
And just started dancing. No music, nothing. Estelle Parsons sitting in the room. And she smiled at me afterwards, probably the same way Michael Kahn smiled at me, like, did you have fun, Jessica? Like, all right, you put yourself out there. And I got a call back, and I met Al for the call back.
Changed you, meeting him?
Oh, completely. Completely. He is I am a shy person, and I used to be really self-conscious and insecure and had difficulty, like, really standing up and speaking for myself. And he's a great cheerleader. My very first audition, my callback that he was at, I started reading from the play, and as I was acting, I could hear, oh, wow. Oh, my God. Like, I could hear him in the audience saying all these things that made me feel like, yes, I'm doing great. And working with him on that play and it was my first movie, still has not come out, making that movie, he's been such a great teacher for me for film. The
movie was Wild Salome.
Yeah. Wild Salome.
And it's never come out.
It hasn't come out yet. Yeah. I'm waiting. I'm hoping maybe with all this Zero Dark 30.
But how did he change you as an actress?
Well, he taught me a couple things. I used to be afraid of the camera and think like, okay, I have to pretend it's not there. And he said something that completely opened my eyes. He said, most people are afraid of the camera, but in film, you have to be intimate with the camera. Because more than your scene partner, the camera sees into your eyes. It sees into your soul. It's part of you. And like your arm is part of you, once you accept it, you forget the arm is there. But with the camera, once you accept that it has a direct line to your soul, you can forget it. But you have to be more open to it than anything in life.
Then can you go do that, or you just learn to do that because you know that's where you have to go?
I think it gave me permission to be open to it. You know, by saying that to me, then I didn't feel like there's all these different schools of acting, and some of it is like, well, you have to really think you're in the environment, you know, and you have to not see the camera or not see the audience and really try to pretend you're in the room. And I think maybe I thought that's what I was supposed to do. And by him giving me permission to say, no, the camera's your scene partner, just as much as the other actor. Once he said that to me, it just changed me. And for Tree of Life, so much of that acting...
Pacino called Terrence Malick, didn't he?
Well, I think Terrence Malick called Al Pacino because I was auditioning for it, and I'd had 4 auditions, and I'd never really worked much, and it was a big film, and I think he just wanted to make sure I wasn't a crazy person, and I was okay to work with.
And what was the audition
The very first audition for Tree of Life was just doing a lot of behaviors. Terrence Malick wasn't there. It was things like showing up and putting a baby to sleep, singing a lullaby, looking at someone with love and respect. All these things of just being. Because in a Terrence Malick movie, you're not really allowed to act. You're just supposed to be. And then there was a piece of dialogue, and because I'm such a theater nerd, I recognized it from a Eugene O'Neill play. And we were to just speak that dialogue so we could hear our voice. After that tape got sent in, I got a call that said, Terrence Malick would love to meet you. And this was before the movie had financing, so I flew myself to Texas. I had hardly any money. And met with Terrence Malick and had an audition there.
You have described him as like a silent film director.
Yeah. I think he's the last living silent film director. I read a great book on Clara Bow, and in it was talking about, when the actors were working on silent films, the sets were so loud. The directors were always talking, they were talking to the actors, people were banging into things, it was kind of chaotic.
Lots of movement.
Yeah, lots of movement, and the camera moved constantly. And then once sound came to be, everything had to be so quiet, the camera became stationary, and everyone had to act around that. When I was actually on Tree of Life when I was reading about Clara Bow, and I read that and I said, well, that's exactly what our set is. It's a very loud set. Terry's constantly talking with us. The camera's always moving. We're always finding each other. And I realized that I think he is the last silent film director. When you watch his movies, it's very rare that the characters speak dialogue, and the voiceovers to me are like the title, the cards that you see in silent films.
Did he send you to the Metropolitan Museum to see Raphael's Madonna?
Yeah, he asked me to look at a lot of the Madonnas.
Looking for what?
You know, he didn't specify, but I found that when I went and started staring at the Madonnas, there's something really interesting with their fingers and their eyes. It was very rare to see the Madonna staring straight into the viewer, like with a kind of like a direct gaze. They always had like something that was indirect, whereas usually the eyes were downcast, and the fingers were always like there was this like reaching upward, almost this like the heart opening and the eyes downcast. And one of the very first shots of the film, and I had no idea when he was shooting it, it looks to me just like that painting. And I'm sitting at the table and I'm kind of going like this, smiling down, and I really felt like it was the same energy. I think that's what he was having me do. Also, he asked me to watch a lot of Lauren Bacall films for the voice.
For her voice, yeah.
Yeah, there was a different way of speaking that wasn't modern. Nowadays, we speak very fast because we're afraid someone's going to cut us off.
And the dialogue is fast, too.
Yeah, and Lauren Bacall, like, she just took her time, and there was this even tone to the way she spoke. Yeah. And I've learned, she had a great vocal coach that taught her that, but there was this very direct, very easy way of speaking.
Yeah. Are you a student of film?
Oh, yeah. I love movies so much.
Yes.
We changed schools when I was in 5th grade, and they asked me, like, what's the last book you read? And I said, it was like a Carol Burnett's biography. And the counselor looked at me like, that's very strange. I read Carol Burnett's, I read Barbra Streisand's,
But was there ever an instinct that you, after you got out of high school, not to go to Juilliard, but to head to Los Angeles and say, I'm 18 years old, I'm going to go down there, and I'm going to find my way into movies?
Well, I did. I spent 1 year in Los Angeles.
So you did do that?
Yeah.
Before Juilliard?
Yeah, before Juilliard. And I was living in Los Angeles when I auditioned for Juilliard. And I had many people after I got in tell me, in L.A., you shouldn't go to Juilliard because you'll be too old when you get out of school to be an actress. I remember hearing that and I thought, that's really upsetting. And then I thought, but I don't want to spend my life acting in, nothing wrong with it, because I do love there's a lot of great TV shows, but at the time they were, people I were talking to in LA were trying to get me on these TV shows as like, the like young people hanging out and, all these, but nothing really. I just had a love for something else that was not modern, I love Strindberg and
So if someone came out of high school today who had talent, and they admired you the way you admire, you'd say go to school.
Absolutely.
Go to Yale, go to Juilliard, go somewhere.
go somewhere, even if it's not acting
Even
school.
if it's not acting.
Go to
learn
school.
about liberal arts and things
Yeah,
like that.
you have to learn about life. You can't be an actor not having experienced life. Every part I get, to me, it's like a course I'm taking. When I did The Debt, I learned so much about the medical, not fun, but I learned so much about the medical experiments during the Holocaust and Mengele and these survivors, and that, every part I play, I have to immerse myself into that. I have to study that world in order to understand those women. And when you go to school, when you have, this capacity to learn and this, thirst to learn, I think it makes you a better actor.
Are you surprised by what's happened to you? Or do you think it's simply, I worked really hard at this and I've had an opportunity and the opportunity paid off?
I'm surprised the way it happened. And also, I didn't expect so much attention, especially so fast. I think, though, I've always been the person that I do the work when no one's watching, and I've always been like that. Even when I was playing a dead body in LA on some TV show, I was at my house doing play readings of Miss Julie. I'd ask my friends to come over and read the play aloud. I was constantly, at one point I was adapting Hamlet for a movie, which I'll never make, but I was constantly trying to remind myself every day, I'm an actor, I'm this kind of actor, I need to challenge myself in these stories.
And do you love every part of it, the editing, the directing, all the things that go together to make the movies?
Yeah.
And to create performances on stage, whether it's the playwright or it's the director or whoever it might be.
Yeah, I love every bit of it. I don't think I'll ever be a director unless it's a...
You don't want to be Kathryn Bigelow.
I could never be Kathryn Bigelow. She's too wonderful to even think of being her. But I would like someday. I'd love to be a teacher. I'd love to work at Juilliard someday. When I have a family and after I've settled down a bit and do some theater and every once in a while.
If you were teaching a master class about acting, what would you want the students to know that you have learned?
The most important thing I think is the prep before you arrive.
Really?
Absolutely. If it's someone who doesn't want to play themselves as the character, like in Zero Dark 30, I'm not playing Jessica Chastain as a CIA agent, because then I'd be crying throughout the whole movie.
No, I can't watch this.
I'd be like, please stop. It's so mean. It's always, for me, the prep is about understanding the world that you're in and really understanding the character, understanding your similarities and your differences. It's a lot of homework. That's absolutely what I would stress to people.
And the craft, the idea of being able to execute it once you understand it, can you explain that, or is that simply doing it, that you learn the things that are necessary to be good?
Yeah. I think, it's about, I said this once, and it's about, I guess, not having a sense of vanity as an actor, or even a sense, vanity/narcissism. When I was working with Sean Penn on Tree of Life, we were talking one time about acting, and he didn't know how shy I was. At that point, I was still painfully shy, but I was trying to hide it. And he said that a person who's self-conscious is just as narcissistic as someone who talks about themselves all the time, because you're still self-absorbed. And there's something about being an actor where this is me, defining what he said. Something for me about being an actor, that with nudity or with doing scenes, I can't be concerned about how I look when I'm playing a character. I have to completely give myself over to the woman or the man or whatever it is I'm playing, and yes, have a emotional through line to myself, but there has to be an absence of self at the same time.
When they say she's like a chameleon, do you take that as a compliment?
I think, what I think? I don't think in Hollywood, except for, of course, for Meryl Streep, that, people are used to actresses allowing themselves to be different for every role. We're used to men being allowed to do that. Gary Oldman, Daniel Day-Lewis, Tom Hardy, these great actors coming forward. But with women, and I've started to even see it now, where I'll get a part And the director in the very beginning when I sign on to something is okay with the look I'm going to go for, and we talk about it. But then once I'm there and we're rehearsing it, they get really nervous about me looking different than I look now. Because there's something, they feel like, okay, I want to buy what I see.
Yeah.
You know, and this, you're going to sell the film, you're going to go out there and do the interviews, you do the magazine covers. I want you to look like the character. So I find that with women, I get more of a pushback to do that. So I don't know, I take it as a great compliment that that some people may call me a chameleon, but I think that more actresses would be if they were given the chances to be.
And do the people who, with you, think about your career view that as a positive thing?
I view it as a positive thing. I mean, yes, it doesn't make me super famous, but I don't want to be super famous. I never wanted to become an actor for money or fame. There was just something in me that I was not able to express. Emotion, I don't know what it is when I was a child, that this is the way I learn about myself, and this is the way I learn about other people.
What's amazing about this, you've never imagined doing anything else.
Never.
If I said to you, if not acting, what would it be? You have no idea, because you haven't thought about anything but acting.
My nightmare is something could happen and I wouldn't be able to do this anymore. That's because I don't...
Something physically or...
Yeah, or... I mean, I guess I could teach. I would love that. But, yeah, never. My whole life I've wanted to be... to express myself. That's what makes me feel part of something bigger than myself, is when I'm acting.
Let me talk about these characters you've played and what you became in them. The Debt, for example. You were a Mossad agent, along with two men. An extraordinary story, kind of Joseph Mengele kind of theory.
Yes.
What would you have to become? What was the thing that you had to transform yourself into so that people saw and felt they were watching a Mossad agent at work?
Right. Well, I had months before where I trained in Krav Maga, which is the fighting
physical thing.
Yeah, it's the fighting
Sean Penn
technique.
told me about that. That's what he does.
Yeah, well, yeah. It's really, it's intense form of fighting, and I'm a pacifist in real life, so it's really very intense. I trained in Krav Maga. I'd never spoken German before, and there was a lot of German to be spoken in this movie, so I took a beginner's course at Berlitz language. And then I also had a coach who taught me the lines. I read so much about the Holocaust, the survivors of the Holocaust. I found a story that I created for my character. And then I got to also work with Helen Mirren because we shared the
She
role.
plays the older.
Yeah, and we worked on different mannerisms that we would share and the accent. But for me also, I think a lot about energy when I'm acting. I really think in terms of that. I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up in Northern California. I always think, where does the energy live in the person? And for me, Rachel Singer has survivor's guilt. Her whole family's been killed. Why does she deserve to be alive? And so for her, I thought a lot about scar tissue, that she is just this walking scar tissue, and that helped me a lot.
Take Shelter. Here's a clip from Take Shelter. Look at this.
The great Michael Shannon.
Yeah. Amazing actor.
Oh, my gosh. We made that movie for no money. We worked 4 6-day weeks, and we would get sometimes 3 takes for a scene. And working with Mike, that's a masterclass right there, because you can never take your eye off the ball. He's constantly doing something, and if you're not present, you miss it.
And why did you take that role?
To work with Mike Shannon.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I usually, if most of the films I do, it's always about who am I working with, and also, is the character something I've never done before?
So I can take something away from it, that I have a new experience, and will I learn something from the person I'm working with?
Yeah. Like, we talked about it being a master class for me. I have no control over what the final product is. I don't know what they're going to do in the editing room. I don't know if people are going to like the film. The only thing I have control over is if I leave this experience, I'm walking away with something. And that's how I want every filming experience to be, every play, everything I do.
Based on what you said earlier, are you happiest getting inside the character or the actual filming of the material?
You mean like the research or the filming?
Yeah.
I am happiest, I'm always happiest in the filming, because there's a freedom in that. You do all the work before, which sometimes is really difficult because you have to go to very dark places, learn things about humanity that you didn't know, or, these horrible things, create secrets for your character. Once I do that, I have this kind of book. This is who I am. I don't have to think about it anymore. I just show up there, and now it's in me, and it's like there's the intimacy between the actors that I find so incredible. Just being able to look at someone and have it mean so much. It's very rare, even in, walking down the street, that we really look at someone. And there's something about filming that, like I said, it makes me feel part of something bigger.
You also say it's a combination of twin lines. One is fear of failure, and the other is extreme confidence, and especially if you're prepared and you know who you are.
Yeah, I mean, like, even if we go back to that audition for Juilliard, I mean, yes, I have a fear of failure. I always, like, when I sign on to something, I always like, am I going to be okay at this?
But you're taking a chance and you know you can nail it.
Or you have to think somewhere like, I got this.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have it, and they always wrestle with each other. Because if you're too confident, you end up just not being good because your ego is driving everything. But also, if you're too fearful, you never take chances. So you always have to kind of like...
Well, you've said also about fear, that if in fact you feel some fear about doing a role, that's good because you know you should do it.
Yeah.
If you find that fear, that's a reason for me to do it.
Yeah, because if it's scary, it means I don't know if I can do it, which means I've never done it before. But it also means that if I throw myself into the lion's den, I may die, I may get eaten, but also I'm going to have to rise to the challenge. And in doing so, sometimes I've always found that you learn more from failure than you do from success. So if I'm going to risk failure, I'm going to throw myself out there and I'm not going to be good in this, that's fine because I'll learn more.
Coriolanus, Ralph Fiennes. You said about him that his performance in Schindler's List made you realize that acting was about more than just being in films. It was about playing complicated, very human characters.
Yeah, you look at that performance in Schindler's List, and he's playing it like a lovesick puppy.
Yeah.
Which is so unexpected. And I remember seeing the film, and I'd never really seen acting like that. I think I saw Schindler's List and English Patient at the same time. And both those performances, they have so many contradictions. I mean, English Patient is a sweeping romance, but he's very unlikable at times, and he's very, he's got this tough exterior. And I found that with that, I said, well, that's something I'm really interested in. A character that has contradictions and can be unlikable, but you have to find the thread of humanity and compassion within them.
Someone said to me about acting that it has to look like you've just had the thought, so that what happened there, you are looking at it as a spontaneous experience. You have to feel it as a spontaneous experience, even though in your head and in everything you've thought about, you have practiced it.
Yeah, the difference for me, though, is I don't know what my thought's going to be. So I know what the lines are. I know where my character's coming from, but not until I'm in the scene with the person and I see how they're talking to me and the temperature, what exactly is going on in this room. Are they being rude? Are they listening to me? Is he shutting me off? Is he not looking me in the eye? I don't know how I'm going to be within it. So for me, the thought's always spontaneous because it depends on, the actor I'm with.
And what about the character in Help? What did you have to do there?
Well, first of all, I had to fight really hard to get that part.
They didn't think of you as a sort of
Oh, no.
sex pot?
No. Blonde bombshell?
No.
No. I read the script.
So what is it to fight to get a part?
Well, you just go in many times and you feel like that was one. I went in and I auditioned, and before I even auditioned, I went and bought a dress because I don't dress like Celia Foote. I realized, okay, she has to kind of be a little bit vulgar, and so I went and bought what I thought a vulgar dress was. I showed up, I got the voice, I did all that stuff, auditioned. I felt like it went really well. I felt like the director really liked me. Octavia was there, and I kept hearing I was on a list, but they were still auditioning, and then they had offered it to someone else, and then she turned it down, and I was like, what's going on? And then it just kept going on and on and on, but I kept hearing that, no, they really like you. And I was thinking, well, why don't they cast me if they really like me? And then I was filming Texas Killing Fields, and we were doing all-night shoots.
That's Sam Worthington, was it?
Yeah, the Amy Mann film, The Real Tough Cop.
Right.
And we were filming night scenes in a swamp in Louisiana, and I got a call that said, okay, you know, they love you, but they just want you to come in and test for it.
Were you insulted?
I was just like, well, I just thought, well, obviously they don't think that I'm physically right for this character. And I was so exhausted, so I called my agent and I said, I'm not going to do it. Which it's funny because Al Pacino told me the same thing happened for him with The Godfather.
Yeah.
I said,
it did happen.
Yeah. I said, I'm not, you know what? They obviously don't want me. There's got to be some point where I have a shred of self-respect. Like, I've gone in, I've done the thing, you know, I've said I wanted to do it. But then the last minute I thought, okay, you know what? I believe in this. I love the director. I understand, you know, there's a lot of people involved in this decision. I'll go in, I'll let them do me up like Celia Foote, and we'll see what happens. And I'm so happy I did that because I loved playing that character.
You loved it?
Oh, I loved it. It's very rare that I maybe because I love such complicated women, and usually it leads to a lot of tense and dramatic situations, it's very rare that I get to do something that has a lot of lightness in it. In Celia Foote, when we're talking about energy, is all heart, you know, it's all here. And to get to, like, you know, play on my light side and goofy side, you know, be able to gain weight and be that blonde, funny woman, it was great. But I did learn a lot. I mean, I'd walk out of the trailer in that red dress with the blonde hair, and I've never seen guys look at me like this before. They would drop their food when I would walk by. They always had this look of like,
oh my God.
And then I'd go in after shooting, and I'd go back into the trailer, and I'd come out in my cut-off jeans and my hair in a ponytail, and my face washed with makeup, and the look of disappointment on every man's face when they realized it wasn't true.
So all this stuff has happened to you, all these movies. We had a Golden Globe nomination
This morning.
SAG
yesterday.
Exactly. So things are happening, and you've also become a favorite cover photo. Look at this. Tell me when you see this.
This was a really exciting shoot for me to do. It's the art issue for W Magazine.
Right.
So I got to work with 4 artists and put myself basically in their hands, which is what I feel like I do as an actress. I love to go to the filmmaker and basically say, here I am, I trust you, do with me what you will.
That's what you say to a director.
I don't really say that, but that's
your head.
That's what's in my head.
I want to see where he wants to take this or she wants to take this.
If I ever feel like this is an unsafe place or someone's not respecting me, but I definitely feel like for me, acting is a giving over of self. And so with this...
Look at this.
That, to me, though, looks the most like myself because there is this stripped-down openness to that. But all of these, like this one right here, you know, she kept telling me, it was Micheline Thomas, she kept telling me she wanted me to look like, she had these pictures of Michelle Pfeiffer and Scarface.
Yes. Hollywood's actress plays muse to artist Micheline Thomas. This one? That's
Chantel. We worked via Skype because she's
Chantel Jaffe.
Yeah, she doesn't like to fly. And then, so they took photos of me with her directing the photographs, and then she painted from there.
And this?
And that's George, which was so much fun.
Kondo.
Yeah, he's like working with, it's like being around him is like being in a cartoon. And we just like laughed the whole time.
And this is T Magazine, a newly minted star in an old Hollywood mold. Do you think that, an old Hollywood mold? I mean, are you a throwback to something?
You know, I never really thought I was, but when I first started my career in LA, I don't think people knew what to do with me because I didn't look of the time. Like, I don't think I look incredibly modern, and maybe that's why I get cast in so many period films. But also that could come from the fact that I love movies. I love Greer Garson, I love Clara Bow, you know, all these fantastic actresses from other times.
Do you worry about any of this stuff that there's so much exposure that there's a risk that people will say, oh, I've seen this?
Yeah, absolutely, I think that. But I hope that by challenging myself to not repeat myself, I can kind of avoid that. Also, I don't talk about my love life in the press at all. I don't, you know, I'm never photographed having lunch at the Ivy with a boyfriend or anything. And I think because of that, if a tabloid decides to write a story about me, the only thing they're going to be able to write about is what I'm wearing or my work. Because I don't really play into or allow that kind of attention. So I think that also keeps me more private. When I walk outside, I'll tell you right now, most people don't come up to me. It's very rare that maybe someone recognizes me, but they never talk to me about it. So I'm able to forget.
That's going to change.
Maybe.
It really will. Much success to you. This has been a wonderful conversation for me.
Yes, me too. I love your show so much.
Yeah. And I haven't even mentioned that you're still, and you have to go right now to the theater. You're starring every night in The Heirs.
Yeah.
With David Strathairn and Dan Stevens.
Yes, and Judy Ivey.
And Judy Ivey, too.
Incredible.
And then there's also this one film, I'll close with this, that you're doing, which is intriguing to me. Mama is one, but the other film in which there are two stories.
Yes, The Disappearance of Eleanor Rigby. It's basically, which I love this concept, it's a husband and wife that separate. One film follows his point of view, and one film follows her point of view. So it's James McAvoy and myself. And there's a couple scenes that go into both films, but they're written differently and they're shot differently. So it's his perspective of what happened, and it's her perspective of what happened, which I find that really exciting. It's a first-time filmmaker, Ned Benson, and I got to work with the incredible Isabelle Huppert, who plays my mother in the film. And that, for me, was a huge dream.
I mean, you've said that she really has some capacity. I mean, I've forgotten the quote I read, you know, in a sense to show so much emotion.
Yeah, but also my favorite kind of acting is when you don't spoon feed the audience, is where I look at Isabel's face and the piano teacher, and I feel like I know her thoughts, and I have to lean forward because I'm really interested in what she's doing, and I don't have to sit back and go, okay, entertain me. You know, it's not, there's something more going on with her.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica Chastain for The Hour. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.